Hey there, I'm Nicole Ringgold. I am a silversmith. I'm also author of The New Silversmith, in which I talk about, in the very beginning, how I started challenging myself as a silversmith by making chains. And unbeknownst to me, discovered ways in which to work with sterling silver that apparently most people thought could not be done. And one of those things is fusing sterling silver. So to do so, in my book, there are 5 different kinds of chains that I show, and one of which is called the bicycle chain. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's this one. So today I'm going to take you step by step through that process. I would like to thank Rio Grande for sponsoring my YouTube channel. The details are below. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them below and I'll do my best to answer each and every one of them. Thanks for following along, and I hope you learned something new today. Here's a close-up of the bicycle chain. This one has been oxidized and polished. If you've been following my YouTube channel for a while, you'll notice that this technique is similar to that of the barbell chain. It just takes it a few steps further. For those of you who haven't done that technique before, it might be helpful to go back and revisit that particular tutorial. All right, so let's dive in. For this particular chain, I use 16 gauge round, half hard sterling silver wire. I use flush cutters to snip approximately 1.5 to 2 inch lengths. And you can snip, it depends on the length of the chain that you want. I'm going to make a wrap that wraps around my wrist twice. So I'll probably have about 50 links. Then I use round nose pliers to create lollipops. I wrap the wire around the round nose pliers and overlap. You can see here I'm overlapping, and then I nudge the wire backward to create a perfect aligned circle. So here I'm wrapping, I overlap, take the pliers to that seam, and then press open the stem or the remaining wire. From here, be sure that your wire is flush, and then use a second pair of pliers to ensure that they both lay flat on the surface. What I mean by flush is, see here, it's poking up, and I'm going to use these needle nose pliers to wiggle it into place so that it's flush. And here you can see the side view. It's not sticking up. This ensures that there's no bump after you fuse. Okay, so then I'm going to use a number 6 torch tip. This is the flame. I don't know if you can see that. That's about the size flame with the 16 gauge wire, which is about 1.5 to 2 inches of propane to start, then add your oxygen. So that's the size of the tip, and you want to make sure that it's a nice blue, efficient flame. If you're looking for instructions on that, I do have another tutorial on how to have an efficient flame with your Little Smith oxygen propane torch. As you're fusing these links, you do not need to heat the entire piece. You only need to heat what I think of as the armpit or the bend. So watch my torch. I'm pointing my torch right at that bend, and I'm using my pick to ensure that the silver is touching. It does not have to be flush, but it must be touching. So here I'm going into the bend. I'm using my pick to ensure that they're touching, and as soon as they're touching, then they'll fuse together. Here I'll do it again. And I'm using a titanium pick created by Lion Punch Forge, my favorite pick. If you find that the circle is too large, then you can take your torch and go straight to the center, and that will cause it to draw inward, and it will make that circle a little bit tighter or smaller. And then let's say you screw up and you focus your torch on the most vulnerable spot, which is the tip of the wire, causing it to ball up and not fuse. So I'll try to demonstrate that here. I'm going to point, so it's really about the angle of your torch. So there, I heated the vulnerable spot. So what I'll do is just heat the whole thing, ball it up, and then I'm going to hammer it and then drill a hole through it so your silver's not wasted. Once you've created all of these double-sided, well, they're barbells is what I think of them, you snip them in half, right down the center. And then from there, you'll take some needle nose pliers and you will go right around halfway and bend them at a 90-degree angle. I just happen to have this piece of broccoli that I fabricated, all fused, just FYI. And I'm going to use that as the centerpiece or the focal point of my wrap. And I soldered in another small link. I'm going to take one of these links at a 90-degree angle and put it in there. Put it down on my soldering platform. And my soldering platform is Silquar, Silquar, that I got from Rio Grande, with the pin pointing upward. You want to have a nice hot torch. I think I've got, about 5 inches of propane to start with, adding the oxygen. And then I'm moving all of my pieces out of the way so they don't get hot. And I'm going straight across. You do not want to point downward at your piece like that. Don't do that. You're going to point across the wire and you're going to slump it downward into a ball. And then sometimes the ball becomes a little bit cattywampus. So go to the other side and that will cause it to slump back over toward the middle. And if that ball link is a little wrinkly, take your torch and go straight across the top, which will smooth it out. And then you'll repeat this over and over and over until you're an expert. You're going to add links, and sometimes you can do it 2, 3 at a time. They might fall over, but I try to do about 3 at a time to be a little bit more efficient. I am addicted to my pick. I use it to not only balance my work, but also act as a heat sink. So here I'm placing my pick down on the bottom link to act as a heat sink so that the ball does not fuse to the link. I'm also using the pick, again, this is from Lion Punch Forge. I love this pick. To move pieces out of the way, to act as a heat sink, and to balance my work. Okay, and then let's say you create these beautiful links, you fold them into 90-degree angles, but the pin is too short, and so that your balls are going to be too small and they're going to drop through the lollipops that you've created. Let's just say that. So there's a really short link. As you can see, just beyond my torch is a ball of scrap silver. And I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to heat it, and pick it up with my torch. First, I'm going to take that short link, turn it into a ball. Then I'm going to use my pick. It's a bit too big, so I'm going to use my pick. I'm splitting it in half and picking it up with my pick. So there's that scrap silver. I'm holding it against the ball, and I'm heating the scrap and the ball at the same time to fuse them together, and that's enlarging? I'm not sure if that's the right word. The ball so it does not drop through that lollipop circle. Here, I'll do it again. I'm splitting it in half because it's too large. I'm adding it to the other ball, heating it, rounding it out, smoothing out that top by just putting my torch across the top of the silver, and it smooths out the what looks like a wrinkly silver surface. Do it one more time. That one is cattywampus, so I'm coming to the other side to draw it back over. Then once your chain is long enough, I like to add a link that has a little bit of a larger circle at one end so that I can slip my hook through it. That's going to be my hook. Same thing. I want this link to be kinetic. And a continuation of the chain. And then on here, on the broccoli, I have another little loop. I'm trying to blend it into the broccoli flore so that it looks like it's a part of the design. And I've got a 16 gauge scrap wire that I'm going to ball on one end, holding it in tweezers, horizontal, perpendicular, to the soldering platform, heating the bottom, balling it up, putting it through that little link, and then I'm going to add this longer hook, and I will ball the other side. So here you can see I'm adding the hook, and then the other part, that tail that I'm pointing to here, I'm going to heat that to ball it so that it acts like a rivet all the way through both, and then it's a kinetic hook. Now I'm going to heat that pin or the rivet, trying to point away from the broccoli and away from the hook, but it went sideways, so turning my torch up and pointing it again so that I can quickly go in there and ball it up. I'm thinking that that might be too small. If you can see that the lollipop on the hook is too large, so I'm making it a little bit bigger like I talked about previously. Adding scrap wire to make it so that it does not come through that lollipop top. So now you can see how it swivels on there. And I'm going to take that wire, it's just hanging in there, and turn it into a hook. Create a little kink, and then fold it over my round nose pliers to create a hook. And then I'll snip it. And I'm going to use my torch to just round off or soften that tip of that wire. Quench. I'm going to fold that wire upward so that it's easier to fit into the bail or the circle, the link on the other end of the wrap. And as always, from here, I'll pickle, liver of sulfur, make sure everything is nice and finished and polished, and we're good to go. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, feel free to reach out and I'll do my best to respond. Thank you and enjoy.